It's the holiday season and we should do something more fun today. Many of us have a lot of free time coming up, so when we've had enough of family and friends time and need some alone time, light up those candles and fire up that porn. After that, a nice Netflix binge might be just what you need. The great thing about a content binge, you could do it with other people and it won't get weird most of the time. Plus, it'll give you a lot of conversation topics for when you're just eating or sitting around the porch whittling. People still whittle, right? Thought so. Since this is a Latin Hispanic channel, I'm recommending Latin Hispanic content. Some you might have seen, some you might not have. Some you may have watched a while ago and it may be time for a rewatch. I enjoyed all of these. I would never recommend anything that I haven't watched. Seems like a weird thing to do, but I'm sure that some weirdos out there do that. Admittedly, I haven't seen a lot of Latin Hispanic content. I am super whitewashed. Back in my day, there was almost no content for or about Latin Hispanic folks. All we had was like Desi Arnaz in I Love Lucy, Eric Estrada in Chips, Que Pasa USA, remember that one? And Selena. That's it.
I'm Latina. When was our good old days? When J-Lo became Selena? That's what we get? That's what we get. Oh, no. That's what we get. Selena.
I know there are telenovelas, but that's not really my thing. I'm not looking down on those who live for telenovelas. If that's your jam, awesome. They're not for me. I'm a generic, basic white boy bitch trash panda. Oddly, this list won't demonstrate that, but maybe a future one will. Also, I know the media I named wasn't the only Latin Hispanic media. There is quite a bit, actually. But for the sake of my bad jokes, back in my day, we had nothing. Lastly, a fun fact about me you may not know. I am a student of the cinema. That is the most pretentious thing I'll probably ever say. My college degree is for film, media, and TV studies. Don't be too impressed. I went to Cal State LA. I shouldn't say it like that. I did make cool friends and had really good teachers. Anyway, since that is what I studied, I am knowledgeable and like to analyze media. Even though I was pretentious in saying I am a student of the cinema, don't let that fool you into thinking I only watch foreign art house films or pure Oscar bait. No. I, like Oscar the Grouch, love trash. Not everything I watch is trash, but it's the stuff I enjoy the most. It's fun and more honest about the human condition than the prestigious stuff out there. Hot take. We are in a kind of weird position though, where you have to watch and support anything with or about minorities and underrepresented people, even if it's awful. You have to, or else you will never see any more of it. If you're straight, cis, white, under 40, male, you get all the content. If you're outside of that, you'll be lucky to get one good thing every couple of years. Support diversity, enjoy whatever it is you like, take a chance on something you might not have thought to watch. You may be surprised and you'll love it. That's more than enough prologue. Let's get this list going. Jane the Virgin. This choice is the most obvious. It's on every list of Latin Hispanic things to watch, and that's because it's pretty good. I watched the whole series when it was on the CW. Admittedly, some storylines pissed me off, and season 5 was a complete waste of time, the hottest of takes, but it was a good show with really good characters. If you're not familiar, Jane the Virgin tells the story of Jane Villanueva, a virgin who accidentally gets artificially inseminated and becomes pregnant with Rafael Solano's baby. Jane lives with her former teenage mom, Xiomara, and her abuela, Alba. She is dating her cop boyfriend, Michael Cordero Jr. Shenanigans ensue. Spoilers, the best characters are Jane's dad, Rogelio de la Vega, who I assume is a descendant of Diego de la Vega, aka Zorro, and Petra Solano. Petra, in particular, is a great boss bitch for real with a genuinely good redemption arc. I'll warn you that Jane herself is kinda not great. She can get a little holier than thou and is also a bit of a know-it-all. Kind of annoying for sure, but the show does a great job of making you care about the characters and their storylines. This show is an adaptation of a Venezuelan telenovela called Juana la Virgen. In general, I'm against reboots or adaptations for the sake of rebooting or adapting. If you, as a storyteller, have something new, insightful, or at the very least interesting to say, don't do it in the reboot or adaptation way. It almost never goes well. Luckily, Jane the Virgin does a good job of making fun of telenovela tropes, depicting an honest Latin Hispanic slice of life, and has enough style and magical realism to make it fun and interesting. Worth a watch for sure. Have tissues nearby though, you will cry a lot. Gentefied. This show I'd file under the not great but important to support because we need more shows about folks in the hood category. I'm not a big fan of the show, but I think it's super important to make sure that it has decent ratings or else we won't get more shows about different kinds of people. Let's get into why I'm lukewarm at best on this show. Gentefied tells the story of Casimiro Morales, his grandkids Anna, Eric, Chris, their restaurant, and their adventures living in East Los Angeles. This show is an ensemble cast, but the one character that ties them all together is Casimiro, aka Pops. So I'll dare to say that he's the protagonist. You'd think that it being about life in East LA, I would be all over it. Well, not really. The problem I have is that the stories don't really speak to me. The stories are supposed to shine a light and truth about Latin folks in the hood. For me though, the show relies too much on stereotypes and assumptions about Latin folks in the hood. I get the strong feeling that the writers and producers wanted to tell one story, but the studio was like, you know, that's not what people think when they think of Latinos. Go with the stereotypes. Why do I get that feeling? Because season 1 very much leans in on the stereotypes. Season 2 I found to be more honest, complex, and overall better. Then again, I am super whitewashed and have had very different experiences being a Latin girl from the hood. From the hood, I'm still here. Even though I'm not wild about this show, you should totally watch it. Maybe if Netflix or other networks see that there is a demand for different kinds of folks telling different kinds of stories, we'll get a better Latinos in the hood story. Wouldn't you rather have more stories from people who are trying to do and say different things than another just objectively awful Netflix rom-com? I'd rather have folks try and not quite get there than not try something new at all. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Latin history for morons. I recently rewatched this one and it inspired this list. I watched it back in 2018 when it came out and thought it was funny, touching, and captured a frustration with being a Latin person in America. Rewatching it, I found it to be even more poignant and frustrating than it was 3 years ago. You'd think things would get better, but not always. Latin history for morons tells the story of John Leguizamo and his son, whom he is trying to teach some Latin history to. It's more about John and him learning about Latin history and his frustrations with growing up with the negative idea about Latinos and then learning what Latinos in the US are actually about. Latinos, as far as my experience goes, know next to nothing about our history. We have been under the impression that we make no history, we are not involved in history, we have no history. To learn that it is in fact the opposite, it's quite an empowering experience that we should all have. Maybe it's because I have this channel, but this comedy show is close to my heart for a lot of reasons. The main one is that I share the ghetto rage John does, and I think you guys might too. Plus, it's really funny. Also, bonus hot take, if John was white, he'd have a better career than the one he has now. You know it's it's true. Watch it and let me know if I'm right or not. Narcos, the original. I tried to watch Narcos Mexico, but it was so dang boring. The original Narcos is really good storytelling. Narcos tells a story of the drug kingpin of all drug kingpins, Pablo Escobar, and his rise to the top of the world back in the 1980s. I know I don't have to talk up this series too much. It's already very acclaimed. Side note though, it is hard to watch sometimes. The violence is a little too harsh, but it's nothing you can't handle. We are all really desensitized, right? Just me? Fine. I'll see myself out. The part of Narcos in real life and on the show that is fascinating is how people worship the narcos. Escobar is the first example of a narco that people absolutely loved and adored, like a hero. Why? Because old school narcos would help out their communities. They would build houses, schools, hospitals, give people jobs, and protect their hometowns. All the poor places and people forgotten by the government, that's where the narcos would help out. Mostly because that is where a lot of them come from. The drug dealing, whatever. The killing, as long as it's not innocent people, they know what kind of life they signed up for. Helping out communities, bring that one back, please. Wow, 2 TED Talks in one video. Clearly, I have a lot of feelings. Funny thing about the show, the guy they got to play Escobar has the wrong accent. That's not what a Colombian accent sounds like. Queen of the South. I know there's a Spanish version called La Reina del Sur, but I'm a gringa, so I watched the English version. I'm pretty sure narco novelas are the thing that is popular right now. I could be wrong, but I think that's what's in. Another show about narcotraficantes on this list? Yes. It's important to see a woman in charge in a male-dominated field. Break that glass ceiling, girl. A woman in charge trying to do the drug game differently is interesting. Negotiations more than brute force. I like it. Queen of the South tells a story of Teresa Mendoza and her Drake-like journey from the bottom to the top. Each episode does a good job of creating what seems like insurmountable problems, then solving them in a satisfying manner. It's not flawless storytelling. There are some episodes where you can see what's going to happen a mile away, but that's not bad as far as I'm concerned. Predictability most of the time means that the story makes sense. When stories try to outsmart the audience just to outsmart the audience, that's when things stop making sense and the audience turns on you. Be respectful of your audience and they'll be loyal to you. Is that a 3rd TED Talk? Holy smokes. I'm glad this video is almost over. Admittedly, I'm not done watching the entire series, but so far so good. If while I'm editing, I happen to finish, I'll put a note here telling you guys my final thoughts. Even though I'm not done yet, I think it's safe to say the ultimate thesis of this show is hypercapitalism is bad. So much death and destruction, and all for money. I couldn't help but wonder if it was all worth it. I'd be a terrible rich person though. I'd be satisfied with giving my family a comfortable life and that's it. I'd do the old school narcos thing and help out poor people and communities. Who needs so much money? What are you gonna do with all of it? I'm looking at you, Bezos and Musk. Useless. Honorable mention, Yo Soy Betty la Fea. This one isn't on Netflix, but it is for free on NBC.com. I'll leave a link for it down in the carcancha below. I thought I'd throw in a novela, and it might as well be one of the best and most influential ones. Yo Soy Betty la Fea tells the story of Beatriz Pinzon Solano and her journey in a fashion house as an ugly woman. Betty la Fea is the most successful telenovela in history. It has been adapted and translated into dozens and dozens of languages and countries. Folks have been trying to recapture its success and no one has been able to. I think it's because Betty la Fea told a fresh, new, interesting, and different story. A story all about an ugly woman where the main point is not about her getting a makeover. Revolutionary. See what I mean about letting folks tell different stories about different kinds of people? It's important, and if done right, can be wildly successful. Spoiler warning, Betty la Fea is great, but the ending is crap. I will die mad about that ending. If there is some hot dude with a hot accent offering you a better life on a beautiful beach where you can start fresh, do that. You always do that. Choose that one. Never choose the other option. Other than that, it's great. Conclusion. I've left links to trailers of all these shows down in the carcancha below if you want to see more of the tone of these shows. I hope you guys like my suggestions. Tell me what shows or movies I should check out. And Netflix or HBO, if by some wild random chance you are watching this and want some great ideas for new exciting shows, I have a couple I know y'all are gonna love. Stay safe, mi familia. Happy holidays. Felices fiestas. Salud.